YouTuber Revisualize asked me a question recently that I felt that was an excellent question and one that I am honored that he asked me, and I'm extremely flattered. And it is about how do you know when it is time to engage a target in a WROL scenario. For the rest of you who do not know what WROL is, it is the theory that I don't know necessarily about theory, but it's the term used to describe a complete absence of law enforcement and a quote-unquote rule of law as the governing aspects of what keeps people in line has totally deteriorated. What I would like to do, and to say first and foremost, as you can tell from the title, I don't particularly care for the WROL as it is described and when we're using it in this fashion. Because, Mr. Visualize, in that you have a fire team out in the field that is in fact armed and enacting in the defense of itself and your community, you have in fact employed a form of law. It's a martial law, and it would be devoid of certain due processes, but you know what, here we are. Second thing, I'm going to have a link down below at what myself and a couple of other people feel is maybe one of the best videos dealing with SHTF in general. Some of the best skill techniques to provide yourself with, and some skill sets that you will want to have any guys that are out there with a trigger aware of. And that is from a person named on here, Analytical Survival. And my favorite video of his, and the one I'm talking about, is the one dealing with negotiation. And in his video, he emphasizes the importance of verbal communication and other sorts of negotiations as an effective tool compared to just raw force. Successful negotiation can multiply the effectiveness of your group so much greater than any sort of destructive action. But to getting on with your question, I have here a couple of ROEs. These are military rules of engagement from a moment in time. They change, and they're going to be different depending on the commanding officer or what sort of things you have going on, what country you're in. The biggest difference right here is this particular one. It's green. My color settings are a little funny right now, so you're going to have to forgive me. This green one is for use when we do not have a declared hostile force, and the white one is for when we do in fact have a hostile force in theater. But what do I see as the advantage of using a military ROE as a basis or a law enforcement ROE as a basis? Well, simple answer to that is the military and law enforcement have been dealing with SHTF for a very long time. And these escalations of force and these rules of violence have evolved over time, and they are made from learning experiences. They are refined from mistakes and time, and they just make for a very, very good basis for how to act. I want to say also, Mr. Visualize, that you are asking these questions beforehand is excellent. Just like having these rules of engagement established for your team to have a plan of, okay, how if it comes down to it, heaven forbid, how will we employ this violence? You appear to me to be a pretty good guy, and man, to have a good head on your shoulders is excellent. To not have an itchy trigger finger, to not want to be shot, to not want to shoot someone is, I don't know, it's something that can't be taught, and it's good. Man, at all possible cost, you do not want to get into a gunfight in any scenario. If you can defuse, de-escalate by any means necessary before violence, it is always a plus. In an SHTF scenario, that guy that you were talking about that's going through a car that happens to be armed, I mean, if we engage him unnecessarily and end up killing this man, did that man have some sort of a skill that could have been useful to the community? Was he a generator repairman? I mean, was he skilled in water purifications? Was he a medical doctor? I mean, so this is an excellent exercise, people. All right. So here we go. Non-hostile force ROE. No forces have been declared hostile. A hostile actor. You may engage persons who commit hostile acts or show hostile intent with minimum force necessary to counter the hostile act or demonstrated hostile intent to protect U.S. forces. Hostile act. An attack or other use of force against U.S. forces or use of force that directly precludes, impedes the mission duties of U.S. forces. How you could plug that into your scenario is if for some reason the person is interfering with your process, harassing you, or otherwise blocking you of a vital resource to your mission. Hostile intent: the threat of imminent use of force against U.S. forces or threat of force to preclude, impede the mission duties of U.S. forces. Now, to just have a rifle pointed at you in a tense situation, I know most everybody, I'm sure, has heard the whole "do not fire unless fired upon." It's something where you do not want to make a mistake. You don't want to be the first person to wrongfully pull the trigger when it's unnecessary. So we'll get down here to number 3. We have you may use force up to and including deadly force against hostile actors in self-defense, in defense of your unit or other U.S. forces, to prevent theft, damage, or destruction of firearms, ammunitions, explosives, or property designated by your commander as vital to national security. Protect other property with less deadly force. So to plug that into our particular scenario, if somebody's trying to destroy our means that we're using to defend the community, then we have a serious problem. But if somebody's doing something else, less vital, then you need to establish a additional courses of force, not merely going to firearms. All right. Nothing in these rules limits your inherent authority and obligation to take all necessary and appropriate action to defend yourself, your unit, and other U.S. forces. Now, what that could mean for your team is if you're in imminent self-defense, that's the bottom line. If that guy has pulled the trigger, if he's crazy and insane, if he's got a knife out and he's running for somebody, well, that's it. Okay, now, escalation of force. When possible, use the following degrees of force against hostile actors. Shout. Verbal warnings. Saying halt. Things like drop your weapon. Things like that. You see on here, you see kif right here. Well, cough. That's Arabic. Now, what's that significant to you is that if you live in an area where there's people who speak different languages, it may be worth your time to learn a few key words in Spanish or French or some other language. It's worth it to your team. I mean, if you're going to go out there armed, then you can't have a matter of miscommunication cause violence or harm. Shove. Physically restrain, block access, or detain. That's pretty self-obvious. Show your weapon and demonstrate intent to use it. Shoot, to remove the threat of death, serious bodily injury, or to protect designated property. If you must fire, fire only aimed shots, no warning shots. I think this is an excellent rule. The problem with a warning shot is you never know that it's a warning shot. So what could be just a warning would be misunderstood as an engagement. Fire no more rounds than necessary. Fire with due regard for the safety of innocent bystanders. Take reasonable efforts not to destroy property. Stop firing as soon as the situation permits. And as soon as the situation permits would be when the threat has been neutralized. Crowds. Control civilian crowds, mobs, or rioters interfering with U.S. forces with a minimal necessary force when circumstances permit. Attempt the following steps to control crowds. Repeated warnings. Halt. Show of force, including riot control formation. That would be having your guys go shoulder to shoulder. Blocking access or other reasonable use of force. This other stuff, detainees, if you end up with detaining a guy, it says here to transfer them to military police. If there is any sort of resemblance of authority in your area, you need to get those people in the program ASAP. That's just, I think that's excellent advice. And to treat all persons with respect and dignity. Because I don't know about you, but I personally feel, and it's how I would want to be treated, I would want to be treated innocent until proven guilty. And I see no reason for that to stop, just because things have gotten hard. Now, I'll go ahead and switch over to this ROE for hostile forces, just for a couple of points. And I don't think it's necessarily key to our discussion, other than positive identification is required prior to engagement. That's a reasonable certainty that your target is a legitimate military target. If no PID, contact your next higher commander for decision. It's just if by some reason we're invaded or whatever, you got to be careful. And do not engage anyone who has surrendered or cannot fight due to sickness or wounds. Do not target or strike any of the following except in self-defense to protect yourself, your unit, friendly forces, and designated persons or property under your control. Civilians, hospitals, mosques, churches, shrines, schools, museums, natural monuments, and any other historic and cultural sites. I hope that what I've shared serves to clarify your question. And, if anybody has anything to add or take away, please feel free to do so. I ask that you be respectful. And also, too, I would like to say that what I've said here should not be taken as all-inclusive. Make up your own mind and do what's best for you and your situation. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the question. Be safe.